Rise up, the Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. The crew is back, and now it's time to rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. Rise up, rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. The crew is back, and now it's time to rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. Rise up.
And we're back to the D's on Fire podcast, 2023-2024 season about to kick off. We figured we'd finally get back to all of you fine listeners to give us something to talk about for Duquesne basketball.
Yeah, there's did all my research about a few hours ago, so this should go swimmingly.
Yeah. And as shown by last year, we're more of a watch and then give our reaction to what we see versus necessarily knowing things before seeing the players play.
Yes, I'm very much need to see ball go in hoop type of guy. Preview not as much, but I'll try my best.
Yeah, I mean the good news with this team is we do have a lot of returning players who are expected to play a decent amount of minutes, if not basically whole games, aka Day Grant, Kareem Rozier, Trey Clark. So yeah, we should be able to talk about them and give some realistic preseason expectations based off of the returning skill talent. I do know some of the new players that are coming in are also pretty highly touted. So it should be a good year. Much better than how we ended last year, which I feel like we have to address at some point.
Yeah, let's get it out of the way.
We're not professionals. We do this for fun.
No, yeah.
And that podcast would not have been fun, so we did not recap the Rice game.
Yeah, that if we were official, we would have definitely have done that. But since we're not, we were like, let's pretend like it never happened.
Yep.
And that's why we're moving forward with 23-24.
That's correct.
I guess you should go over kind of the interview or getting interviews on.
Yeah, so as some of you may know, Dave Sabo, who's a longtime PR guy for Duquesne Athletics, retired during the summer. I had reached out to him. He said that it's typically better to wait till the school year is about to start up for us to get interviews, and then he retired right before that period of time. So I don't know if he was just pulling a Lucy with the football sort of thing going on or what, but
he was probably checked out like I don't need to deal with some guy who's trying to do a podcast right as I'm about to retire. So he was like, this is the next guy's problem, so I can't blame him.
Yeah, I mean, the D's on Fire podcast. Do we really want to deal with that? No.
Yeah.
So we are going to work on that in the future, but as of right now, we'll stick to what we're good at, which is talking sort of knowledgeable basketball.
To the best of my ability, talk hoop.
Yeah.
Talk Duquesne hoop, yeah.
Which was consistent with a lot of what Dan talked about in post-game pressers. So that, again, I feel good about our analysis.
Yeah, for sure. I think we did a solid for having never done a podcast before. I feel like we did somewhat okay.
Yeah.
At least keeping up with the games, I think we did just about as good as you can do.
Definitely. And because I don't want to forget this, a shout out to the Duquesne football program, who's undefeated in conference play this year. So they might be able to make the playoffs even with 3 losses early on in their season, 2 against FBS competition, Coastal Carolina and WVU, and a loss against Delaware, who's a pretty good football team at the FCS level. So go Dukes, as always. Let's see. I want to talk about the roster. Expected starting lineup. The first 3 names are pretty easy to put down. Kareem Rozier at point, Day at shooting guard, Jimmy Clark or Trey Clark at the 3. Any thoughts on those 3, Alec?
Yeah, I think Kareem Rozier Big year for him. He was obviously a captain last year, so the leadership thing shouldn't be an issue whatsoever. It's more so just now you're the starting point guard. Um, Showed some promising shooting numbers last year. Needs to shoot the ball a lot more, but I'm excited to like watch him play as a full time starter.
Yeah,
Um,
and
Very similar playing style with Tevin Brewer. A little more tenacious, I'd say, on the defensive end, even for his size. Um, so yeah, excited to watch him for sure.
yeah, and I will say this: Day Day commented at the A10 conference, I guess I'd call it, men's basketball preview sort of thing they had up in New York, saying that Kareem's worked on his jumper a lot this offseason and is shooting lights out from practices. So that is really great news.
That is good. He
if we
shot
have,
like I think he shot like 39% from three. I mean, it's only on like two attempts a game, but still,
yeah,
I mean, that's the type of numbers you want to see. Hopefully, going into a starting role.
yeah, and I think my guess is he's probably worked a lot on shooting off the dribble more because a lot of his shots last year were part of the kind of rotating the ball around. Maybe he'll be able to make some of his own as well. And if that's the case, man, our offense has so much potential.
Yeah, and I would say off the starting lineup, so those three for sure. I have a feeling Trey Williams is probably like not penned in as the one of the
Big men.
remaining five. Yeah, those that big man slot. I would say he's probably in there for
Yeah,
starters, at least to start the season.
yeah. David Dixon is fighting some sort of injury. I think he's likely to miss the start of the season. And then the addition, the big man from NC State, Dusan Maharacic, is also expected to be out for the start of the season as well. I did see that Chabi Barre is cleared. If you haven't read the article by Zach Weiss, definitely read it. It goes into full details about his scare. Basically, he was warming up for practice, and then next thing he knew, he woke up in a hospital bed. So that was terrifying. I've gone through something similar, not heart related for me. It was for him, and that was obviously why they added the hearts on the jerseys, as some speculated last year. Apparently, Chabi didn't pick up on the reasoning either, and he asked the coach like a month or two later, and he was like, "Obviously, that's for you."
Yeah, yeah. No, we just like blue hearts around here. It's just kind of our thing. So we decided to add them late in the season.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a cool touch. Everybody's very eager to have him back. He's excited to be back. He didn't know if he'd be playing basketball again after he found out about his diagnosis last year. So, everybody's excited for him just to get on the floor, let alone see what he can do. Which, I mean, he has so much potential based off of what we saw last year.
Yeah, for sure. That fifth big man role to start is kind of up for grabs with some of the transfers. David Dixon, as you mentioned, Barre, obviously. Probably, maybe as we get into it, one of the Drame twins could probably be in there. Um, it's going to be a real battle in the front court, but we have a lot of depth, so that's like last year we had a lot of depth. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and I. It's crazy to say, but I'm even more excited about the big men this year. In part because Chabi and Dixon have had that off season to kind of work on some things. Um, and I mean, Trey, he probably is what he is, but man, he's effective. And then Dusan Maharacic, I've heard, has a higher ceiling and floor than Joe Reese did last year. So we'll see how that rotation works out. And then with the dramas that you mentioned, they can add depth at the 4 or the 3 spot. They definitely provide that shooting touch on at the 4 side. I don't know if their shots are as good for a typical 3, but for a stretch 4 at 30-35%, somewhere around there, that's a decent shot.
So yeah, the two Drame twins, just to be clear, transfers from LaSalle. A10 watchers should have an idea of who they are. Like you said, they have a 3-point potential. Looks like they both shot a lot better when they were at St. Peter's in the 21-22 season. Both shot over 35% from three. Last year dipped. Uh, Fusini, is that how what we're going with? He shot 26% last year, and then Hassan shot 31%. So hopefully we see the 21-22 numbers from three with those guys.
Yeah, and I'm gonna guess that I mean, they were still a decent part of the offense for LaSalle last year, but they were an integral part of it when they were at St. Peter's during that run. So it's good to see. Um, yeah, a lot of very difficult pronunciations for the staff this year. So broadcasting team is going to be on their toes at least at the start of the year, and every away team they were already butchering names last year. I can't even imagine what they're going to do this year.
Yeah, I'm really bad with names. I literally have the phonetic, pronunciation up on my screen here to try my best. But apologies to Fusini Drame. I think that's right. Hassan obviously is good, but yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah. And the other big new name that came in, Andrei Savrasov from Russia. Um, he looks like the three depth that we need. Matus Ronsky still on the roster. He's probably going to have taken a big jump for him to get the minutes that he wants. And then Jakob Nekas is also a freshman that came in who was highly touted, international guy, and he's 6'8", and I think he's a real three as well at 6'8". So that'll be interesting to see how he does. He did play soccer growing up, so he's already got our respect for that. Uh, we'll see. We'll see how much playing time they get, but they can't hurt, right? Like if you're getting on the floor, you're not gonna hurt the cause.
I'm excited. Is Savrasov? He's also injured, right? He's like recovering, I think,
Yeah,
from a knee, so he's going to be out for the beginning of the season. But once he comes back, I'm the most excited for him. Kind of like an all-around scorer, it looks like, based on the numbers. Average 14.3 from Georgia Southern last year. Shot 36% from three, 55% from two. Um, Good shooting numbers, 6'7", 220. Um, Decent size, like you said, for kind of that mystery three position where we kind of have a similar issue this year if he doesn't work out, where we're just either all guards or all like big men fours who can't really shoot. So having a true three would be nice for this team.
yeah. From a size perspective, the Drames are 6'7". Um, all guards that we have are like we got Rozier at 5'9", Seamus McDermott, who's a freshman, 6'2", Lucas Perisuk, he's a freshman from Ohio, 6'1", Ethan Onish, 6'1". I'm trying to see if there's any other like guys that could be considered three. Andre, 6'7". Um, Matus, who wasn't really a three, he's 6'8". Jakob, 6'8". And then Day Day, 6'2", Jimmy Clark, 6'3". There's no real like 6'4", 6'5" guys on our roster, which would be the typical size that we'd be looking for a college our size at a three.
Yeah, it'll be
Uh,
interesting.
yeah. So let's go. I'm gonna go open up the schedule here, and we can go game for game on predictions of what we think is going to happen, wins or losses. The opener Monday, November 6th, so only a few weeks away here, at the Coop against Cleveland State. Uh, I have that as win. Cleveland State is a very underrated program, I think, for college basketball's sake. They typically, if they are in the tournament, they're typically a 13 or a 12 seed, and they always make a run at it in that first game. So that's actually a decent opener, I would say.
Yeah, I think we should win that game. I also have the trusty old Kempom up, where he has the percentages of the probability of a certain team to win. So he does have the Dukes winning that game. What percentage would you put it at? Let's play a fun game.
Oh, 62.
79% chance for
Wow.
the Dukes to win against Cleveland State in the opener.
All right.
So
That's right.
like to
You know
see
what?
that.
I have to get used to the fact that Ken Palm actually has us ranked pretty highly going into the season. That has never been the case before.
Yeah, we talked about it off air. 89th is currently like the preseason rankings based off a bunch of mumbo jumbo numbers that Ken Palm likes, but it's a promising side. That's the top third of the country.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that basically every other year, we were looking at around 150. If we were under 150, that was a great year
Right.
for the preseason poll. So being under 100 is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Um,
And I mean, not people aren't projecting us to be. There's actually expectations this year, not being projected to be last in the A10. So it feels good to have like legitimate expectations and hopefully perform, better when it comes to conference schedule and kind of the A10 tournament once that comes around.
yeah, I think the worst I've seen the Dukes ranked in a preseason A10 ranking is fifth.
Same,
Um,
yeah.
and I'm not gonna lie, if they're end up fifth, fourth, or third, I still think that's a disappointment for where we're at now. I think this season is kind of a do or die situation where we need to be top two. Because if it's not this season, I don't know when or if ever that'll happen.
Yeah, a lot of key guys that are returning this year will most likely be gone after this season. So
Yeah,
a lot of veteran guys returning, which is always it's kind of rare in this era of college basketball. So to have a lot of veteran leadership on this team and returning players, important players, is going to be great. And I think that's going to be really important come the beginning of the season.
yeah. Um, After the Cleveland State game, which we'll do a more in-depth analysis, I guess, of Cleveland State going into that game. I don't know how we're going to do that, but we're going to try. then
I'll try my best. Yeah.
College of yeah, College of Charleston, November 10th. That's the same week on a Friday. That's in Annapolis, Maryland. That's going to be nationally televised on CBS Sports Network. Um, that should be a great game of two mid-major teams that both have high expectations. I'm sure we'll probably be the underdog in that one, but I like our chances on a neutral site.
So we're actually the favorite.
Wow.
Yeah, but it like you said, it's going to be a close game. Kempom has us winning by 2, but 55% um, probability of winning there. So basically 50-50, but the Dukes have the edge.
All right. So
But that'll be
off
a,
to a 2-0 start.
that'll be a good test early though, for
Yeah.
sure.
And
Definitely
then
not a gimme.
and then we have a few home games after that. Stony Brook is the following Monday, and then Princeton that Wednesday, Ryder that Friday. All three of those should be wins. Princeton probably giving us the biggest test just because we've always struggled against Richmond's offense, and Princeton is the creator of that offensive style.
Especially with how they performed in the tournament last year with that big upset.
Yeah. I don't know how many of their players are returning, but
it's vibes though. Vibes matter.
It's all I mean, the Princeton offense is a thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't die. It's always there. Just like Havoc with VCU. It doesn't matter what coach is there. It doesn't matter the players. It's always there. Yeah, and then I don't have much analysis on Stony Brook or Ryder, but those should be wins. And then we come up to one of the bigger tests of our season at Nebraska, the Big Ten, November 22nd, the Wednesday. I think that's the day before Thanksgiving. I could be wrong on that. Could be the following week.
That sound.
I think that's right. I think it's 22nd.
Yeah. Let's go with it.
So that game is on the Big Ten Network. There's a chance we come out with. There's a decent chance we come out with a Big Ten win after that game.
Hopefully, but yeah, Nebraska obviously a big national name, similar, not quite as big as Kentucky like we played last year, but still just to get our names out there and be on the Big Ten Network, that'll be nice. And hopefully I assume Nebraska will be favored in that game. So to come out with an upset would be putting us on the map, so to speak, the national map, I should
Yeah.
say.
So I'm finding myself being the optimist here. So let's see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So far, we're undefeated.
6. we're at 6-0 to start the year. Going against UC Irvine at home. UC Irvine, another mid-major that is pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
Depending on the year, I'm not sure if this is one of their up years or down years. But it's at home, so the Dukes are going to get another W in my book. Starting off season 7-0. Going up December 6th, going on the road to Marshall, the Thundering Herd, for a rematch of a game where we probably played our worst basketball all year last year.
Oh yeah, that was a tough game to watch. That was very frustrating. Hopefully, this is a revenge year for that.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be more up for it at this point, right when we get closer to that game. I will say conservatively that this will be our first loss of the year. And then we play St. Peter's at home 2 days later. I think we'll win that one. St. Peter's talent all left St. Peter's after their miracle run. So I don't think this is going to be a scare at all. And then they have a 10-day break after that St. Peter's game before they play in Akron at LeBron James Arena at St. Vincent High School against Bradley.
That'll be cool.
I guess. I just hate that we always play a game at a high school gym.
Yeah.
And there's no television stream. There's no ESPN Plus stream. It's just somebody who goes to the game, find a Twitter stream and just follow along.
Go on Reddit or something and find a stream. Yeah.
Oh, there's not. Yeah, maybe somebody will have. I don't even know what the thing's called anymore, but you just live stream Facebook Live, maybe. Somebody will do a Facebook Live of the game. And then December 23rd, Santa Clara in Las Vegas. I know nothing about Santa Clara, but that tells me that we should beat them.
I feel like they're kind of a decent like mid-major program. I feel, did Steve Nash go to Santa Clara? I feel like he went to Santa Clara.
I thought it was like Arizona State or something like that.
Well, I have the internet right at my fingertips. Steve Nash.
Yeah.
Yep, Santa Clara.
All right.
Go me.
All right. So unless there's another Steve Nash there, I feel okay. And then we play Cleary, the school where one of our assistants left to become the head coach. It's a nice game for the Cleary, I'm sure, to play Duquesne, but I'm going to say we win that one as well. And then, kicking off the new year, we hit the A10 schedule. UMass, at UMass, who lost a lot of talent. W. At Loyola Chicago. They're better than last year, but last year they were in the basement. W. And then, January 12th, Dayton at home. That is where our hopes and dreams could truly be crushed, because it's always Dayton, Alec. It's always Dayton.
So I'm going to pause you right there because you're basically giving us W's everywhere. KenPom's actually in line with pretty much where you're at. He gives us a loss at Nebraska, makes sense, but everything up until where the heck are we now? Dayton. He has us a loss at Loyola Chicago, but you're nailing everything else. He has us winning all those other games, and including this Dayton game by 1 point, 54% chance of winning.
All right. Ugh. I mean, I hope.
So
I
not
hope
not to
so.
like feed your ego or feed
Uh-huh.
your optimism even further, but I mean that gets me pretty excited to watch this season.
Yeah, and I've told you off the mic. I'm between like truly being full force fan. We're gonna win every game, and trying to be realistic and saying we'll probably end up third or fourth in the conference. But right now, looking at all these games and going one by one, man, the true fan is coming out hard right now.
Gets the juices
Dayton is
flowing.
the first. Dayton and the Thundering Herd of Marshall are the two that scare me so far. And then after the Dayton game, we play Richmond at home. They suck this year. They lost their star players. They really don't have a direction. They might be one of the bottom four teams. If we lose that game,
Was that
it'll be
was that where
terrible.
Tyler Burton? Is that the?
Yeah, that's where he
I think
went from.
he went to
Yeah.
Villanova or something, right?
Yep. He transferred to Villanova. He was the guy I described as the typical high school jock villain.
Oh, that's right.
Based off
That's
of
right. Yeah,
his
just
looks.
based off sheer
Uh,
appearance, but he also was good at basketball. So
he also was good at basketball. Yep. So congrats to the Villanova Wildcats on getting a good one. St. Joe's at St. Joe's. I mean, I think St. Joe's is going to be decent this
I
year.
think so too.
I still think we beat
Yeah.
them. We past few years we've crushed them at their gym. You got to witness it in person.
I will
last
probably
year.
go again.
Hopefully, same
Yeah.
result. And then after the St. Joe's game, we have another few home games. St. Bonaventure and Fordham. That Fordham game is going to be.
Oh, I will be so
Those
mad
are
if we
both.
lose that.
Those are both going to be games where there's a lot of hate because the Bonnies and Dukes
Always, yeah.
have never gotten
Always,
along.
yeah.
And Fordham and us really did not get along last year, including myself and Fordham fans did not.
I was
get
gonna
along
say there's a lot of online hate for you in particular.
Yeah, so I can't wait for that. Those punks will finally get what's coming to them. And a very odd game in the middle of the schedule right now. Chicago State on January 31st, just giving us a break in between A10 games. I guess they don't want to have too long of a break from January 27th to February 3rd, so they threw a random game in here.
I don't hate it. They're, according to KenPom, ranked 325th, so that's fine with me. Keep the legs fresh.
Get some bench guys some minutes. Yeah, that'll be good. Then Rhode Island at Rhode Island on the 3rd. We should win that. Davidson at home. That'll be another good game to watch. See how Davidson responds after losing their two big stars from last year. Then we have the Bonnies at St. Bonaventure on February 10th. And then at Dayton. So even if we win the game here against Dayton, the game at Dayton is going to be
a split. A split would be a success. No doubt.
Yeah, that game at Dayton is going to be just as big, if not bigger. Especially with our teams both supposed to be in the top 4 of the conference. Then we play St. Joe's at home on Michael Jordan's birthday, February 17th. For all you people that don't know that off the top of your head, there's not anybody else notable that was born that day, right?
No, just MJ, just MJ.
Yeah, just Michael Jordan. All right, St. Louis, February 20th at home. They're also supposed to be not nearly as good this year, so that should be a win. Although that one guard is back who just destroyed us last year, and Trey Clark has to be his assignment. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
Right.
Has to be.
You can't have Kareem covering him all game.
No, and that's that's kind of an issue I'm worried about going into this season is like we got to keep guys in front of us, sort of thing. That was left a lot of buckets out in the paint. Um, so keeping guys in front of us, Trey Clark was pretty much the only guy who could do it. So hopefully Day Day takes a step. Hopefully Rozier just fights his ass off. Um, but yeah, hopefully he's up for the challenge for that game in particular.
Yeah, and then following the St. Louis game at the Bronx against Fordham, that place is going to be a zoo. Regardless of how good Fordham is or how good we are, it's going to be a zoo. And then we play LaSalle, who I'm sure can't enjoy the fact that we took the dramas from them.
They'll probably enjoy the fact that they beat us in the A10 tournament. So that's a big revenge game.
Yeah, for both sides. And then Mason, VCU, and George Washington to end our regular season before we start the A10 tournament. So I think I can see I'll give a loss to VCU, even though I don't fully believe it, just because there's got to be some losses here. I'll say a split of the Fordham games and a split of the Dayton games to give us, what would that be, a 13-3 conference schedule?
I would probably say a split with the Bonnies as well.
I'll see. Historically, that's a very good prediction on your part. I can't do that to the Bonnies.
Fair enough.
Can't do it.
Someone has to have integrity here.
Yeah.
It's not me.
So 13-3 with one out of conference loss. That would put us at what, 20, probably around 26-4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good season. It'd probably put us 1 or 2, and good chance of being an at-large bid at that point if all that happens. So, I mean, I wasn't, and that was again with some losses that I didn't fully believe in. So, I like it.
I mean, you have to believe in some of those losses, otherwise we're going undefeated. Otherwise, we're Kentucky of 2012. I believe in some.
Like I said, I didn't believe in some of them. I didn't say I didn't believe in all of them. I can believe in a loss to Dayton in one of those 2 games.
Sure. Okay. 29-1. Sounds good.
And I believe we could lose to the Thundering Herd. So there's 2. Believe in 2 losses. The other ones, we'll see.
Very big of you.
We'll see. So yeah, I'm really optimistic about this team. Let's move on to the women's team, who surprisingly have very similar stakes. They have mostly returning players. Their roster, they did have a few additions to them, but from a starting 5 standpoint, it's probably going to be similar players to what they had this year. They didn't lose anybody. Meg McConnell is the big question mark in my mind as to how high the national media will let a Duquesne player go, because I could see her being in the National Player of the Year honors depending on how well Duquesne plays and how well she plays, where she could be a walking triple-double in every game.
She absolutely should get national coverage at the very least if she takes even like small improvements upon her season from last
year. Yeah, I think it was a sham that she wasn't even a first team player last year for the conference. I thought she should have been a finalist for the player of the conference. I think she's a shoo-in to be in that discussion this year. So we'll see how, like I said, how high she can aspire to be, but the floor is already super high for her.
No doubt.
And then Tess Myers, the jelly to Megan McConnell's peanut butter. My daughter's favorite player will definitely be out there. Amaya Hamilton will be back. She played a lot of minutes at the 4. Precious Johnson and Anaya Townsend both played a lot of time at center, splitting between those two. They've got Lauren Walselson, who was the sixth player off the bench, Niall Bernard, who was another guard that started last year, all returning. It's going to be interesting to see how well this team will play. Like we said, we're more reactive than anything else. But I see similar things with what they're going to do. Does Ken Palm have a women's basketball side of things for predictions on how the season
I
goes?
don't think so. No.
Darn it. It's going to play the same game and see how far off I was. They also start off the season on November 6th. It's away for them. It's at Princeton. I have the Dukes winning this one, although Princeton is also good on the women's side. Pretty historically.
Oh, yeah.
At Niagara after that, and at Howard. So they start 3 games away. And their first home game, November 18th, it's a Saturday. It is the only city game of the year against Pitt at the Cooper Fieldhouse. I will most certainly be at that game.
Have to be. I would have gone to. Yeah.
And we're winning. We're winning this year. Then another away game at Bowling Green, home game against Delaware, a home game against Fordham in December, and then continue the homestand against Kent State, then Longwood. There's a lot of wins there. Fordham, I don't know how good they're going to be this year. They have been pretty good in past years, but I think last year they had a down year, so I'm going to say that's a win. And because of that, I'm going to say undefeated through December. And then at Dayton, I feel good against the girls at Dayton. So we finish off 2023 undefeated on the women's side in my realistic predictions.
Very realistic.
Hey, I hate to say it, but we scheduled some cupcakes here, and the only real test is Pitt, and Pitt's going down.
We have to say that.
Pitt's going down. Then the season really kicks off in January. We've got George Mason. We should beat them. George Washington. We should beat them. I'm trying to think of from the women's side of things. I don't know, man. I see a lot of wins here. I'm not gonna. I can't. I have to stop myself from saying anymore because I'm getting into dangerous territory of predicting any losses. So great season for both teams. Both teams should be in the definitely in postseason consideration. I think both teams should be in the NCAA tournament consideration. But from the A10 standpoint, from the women's standpoint, it seems like it's a one-bid conference based off the fact that they didn't get 2 last year when they definitely should have gotten 2. UMass is a very good team. They are probably going to be the number 1 team again this year, and they are looking for revenge to get back into the postseason, into the NCAA tournament. So that'll be the one loss that I would say we will probably have on our schedule. And they smoked us last year.
They're a very good team.
Yeah. So those were the big topics I wanted to touch on. Alec, do you have anything that you look through stat-wise that you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it earlier. Is kind of shots at the rim defensively. Kind of worried about that with Joe Reese kind of playing the 5 most of the time, our starting 5. Not a big shot blocker. Not a great big in terms of defense. And I read we allowed 43% of opponent shots that we allowed overall were at the rim. That's a huge number. And then I think that goes to show, guys need to stay in front as well. Talking about the perimeter guys. But I think if Dixon, obviously, I'm a huge David Dixon fan. I think he's a really good defender. If he's a starter, I kind of like those numbers to go down if he's a starter. But we have a lot of front court depth, as we talked about, a lot of options to throw in there defensively.
Yeah, and I haven't seen them play in person, but the additions that we received are also supposed to be kind of more stereotypical rim protector kind of bigs. So especially that Doosan guy. So yeah, I feel a lot better about us having a better percentage there. I do agree with you that if the guards can stay in front of them, even without any improvement at the defense on that side, it would still be a better off situation. We we have to defend the three well, and we have to rebound well. Those were the two
You
areas
took
that
the words
killed
right
us
out of my
last year.
mouth. I was going to talk about the other thing is rebounding. And Doosan averaged, what do I have here? Total rebounds last year, 6.6. I think that's more than any Duquesne player from last year. Joe Reese averaged, I think, under 5 rebounds. Trey was right around there, maybe under 5 rebounds as well. And then Andrei Savrasov as well. He's a good rebounder who is probably going to play the three if he plays or starts. He averaged over 7 rebounds a game last year. So some rebounding reinforcements will be a huge help to this team going into this season.
Yeah, and we offense rebounded well, so I don't think that'll.
That was
worse,
a lot of Rotroff though.
Because
to be
a lot
fair,
of it. That's true, but when I saw Dixon and Barre in, they were crashing the boards on the offense.
No, I don't disagree. It's just Rotrov. I think he was one of the top 10 best offensive rebounders in the country. So that just I felt like that just needed to be said.
Yeah, and T's and P's to him. He started his European career and then had another knee injury, so he's back rehabbing over here. But I'm confident he'll continue playing basketball for as long as he wants to, with that skill set in mind about how great of a rebounder he is. And then one other thing I wanted to touch on, the NIL Collective, not sponsored by them. Hint, hint, if anybody is listening who works there. But definitely excited to get some Duquesne merch with some of these players' names on them to kind of support them and in part, and then also to get my daughter some Duquesne gear that I know she'll wear nonstop.
We talked about it off air a little bit. I'm not a huge jersey person to get like someone's name on the back or whatever, like what I'm wearing right now. I support just wearing the team logo, but with the aspect of supporting the players and money going into their pockets, I think I'm morally obligated to buy some merch this season.
Yeah. David Dixon is definitely going to.
He's the first guy that comes to mind. No offense to any of the other players, but yeah. It's a brand that I've created for myself, so I think I have to stick with it at this point. Gone too far.
Yeah. And unfortunately, my guys that I were supporting early on all became household names, so it's not as cool to support Trey Clark as the best Duquesne player when
you know, a good arguably the best player on the team to have his jersey. It's not totally crazy, not totally out of this out of the question to have.
Yeah, and I've got to get this baby Pickett some gear as well. So maybe Kareem Rozier.
There you go.
We'll get some love with a youth T-shirt. All right. With that, I think we're good on the first recording. We'll be better after we have ball to watch.
It's preseason for us as well. Preseason for us as well. So getting back into the swing of things.
All right. Now yeah. All right. Go Dukes, and I guess go Birds.
One of the Pennsylvania football teams has to play well, so I guess the Birds will have to do.
Hey, the Steelers are undefeated with him wearing the Kenny Pickett.
Okay, jersey. All right, fair enough. My bad.
The Dukes are back and now it's time to rise up. Rise up.